Hello, everybody. We'd like to go ahead and get started. First of all, I just would like to review a couple of things regarding WebEx. Make sure you're connected to the audio by going to the Quick Start and selecting the Connect to Audio button. If you lose your internet connection, reconnect using the link emailed to you. You can test your audio settings using the audio pane on the top menu. If you have any questions, we'll be going over questions with the presenters at the end of the session. You can write your questions on the chat box and send it to the facilitator, Jasmine Boyeri. If you're using a telephone to listen to the webinar, make sure to use a landline to ensure call clarity. To exit the webinar, click Quick Start on the top menu and then click Leave Meeting. All attendees will be muted automatically to cut down on background noise. And lastly, we will be recording this session, and a summary of this webinar will be made available to all participants on wingsweb.org. Here's just a quick screenshot of everything. As you can see here, you can go to Quick Start, connect to audio. If you're having any troubles with the sound, send the Wings office a chat, and I'll try to help you connect. The chat section's on the top right, and then you can send it selecting Wings office to me. So welcome to the World Giving Index 2015 webinar on giving trends and emerging markets. I am the moderator, Jasmine Boyeri, speaking on behalf of Wings. Wings is a network of 80 grant maker associations and philanthropic support organizations in more than 30 countries. Our mission is to strengthen, promote, and provide leadership on the development of philanthropy and social investment around the world. Today, our presenters will be Susan Pinkney, Head of Research of the Charities Aid Foundation in the UK, Maria Shertok, Director of Charities Aid Foundation in Russia, and Paola Fabiani, President and CEO of EDIS here in Brazil. I'll go ahead and pass it to Susan, who will start the presentation.
Hi, sorry, we're just trying to find the button to move the charts there. I'm Susan Pinkney, Head of Research for the Charities Aid Foundation, and we're just going to talk you through some background, key global findings from last year's World Giving Index. A little bit about what we get out of it in terms of coverage, and then I'm going to hand you over to Masha, who's going to talk you through some Russian-specific results, and Paola in Brazil, who's going to talk you through Brazilian. Once we get to the end and get to questions, we'll also be joined by Adam Pickering, who's our International Policy Manager, and can answer any kind of broader questions around policy. Sorry, again, having some technical difficulties with the charts. So in terms of background to the World Giving Index, we're actually on our 6th edition now. We've been running it since 2010. So this year's results, although published in 2015, are talking about 2014. So we have 5 years worth of data within that report. It's based on Gallup's Worldview World Poll, which was set up in 2005 to track global trends on a number of issues. Basically what that means is we get over 150,000 interviews conducted across 145 countries in 2014. So that total number of countries can be slightly different year on year, but the year that we're talking about now in today's presentation, there were 145 countries covered. In terms of those of you that are interested in methodology, there were a mix of face-to-face and phone interviews depending on the country. It's basically 3 measures that we look at, which are averaged to provide a percentage score and then ranked. So the idea is really to get a measure of generosity, a general measure of generosity, and not just financially derived, which a lot of other measures are. So we ask 3 questions about whether they've done any, each of them in the past month preceding the interview, donated money to a charity, volunteered time to an organisation, or helped a stranger or someone you didn't know who needed help. So by combining all this, we come up with an overall measure, which means that we can rank on a global basis. So looking at this first measure overall, hopefully this is understandable. The green bars with the hand is those helping a stranger, the blue is donating money, and the one with the clock in the middle is volunteering time. So what you can see quite quickly from looking at this is that in 2014 we actually reached the highest point in terms of helping a stranger, with around about half of respondents having participated in that, 48.9. We also see the highest point in terms of donating money, which is now up at 31.5%, so almost a third there. And not a huge amount of change, to be honest, but the second highest level we've seen in 5 years for volunteering at a fifth. So in terms of how this equates, if we then attribute numbers of people to these measures, we end up with around about 2.2 billion people having helped a stranger, 1.4 billion having donated money, and 1 billion having volunteered their time. Just very quickly on this chart, the basic premise is anything in red is higher up the World Giving Index score, and the darker the blue, the lower they are down. So what we can see, if you look very closely, is that number 1 place this year we had Myanmar, which actually had a score of 66, followed by the USA, New Zealand, Canada and Australia. So they made up the first 5 in terms of our report last year. In terms of some of the other highlights that we saw, we can see that in terms of looking at Myanmar and breaking down why that came in number 1 place, both on volunteering time and money, they came out on top. So 92% of the Myanmarese population, age 15 plus, have donated money in the last month. 50% of them have volunteered time. In the United States, which came second, we see 3/4 of people having helped out in terms of time. And 44% have volunteered their time, and 76% have helped a stranger. So you can see there's quite big differences there in terms of what's going on. On the overall volunteering time measure, as I've already said, Myanmar comes first at 50%, but then we have Sri Lanka in second place, Liberia, New Zealand, Canada, United States of America. So quite kind of mix in terms of types of country that we see coming through on that one. Okay. There's quite a lot of information on this chart. So if we look first of all at the 3 round areas at the top, we're looking at developed, in transition and developing countries in terms of their movements from 2013 to 2014. And we've put these in terms of economic status. So what you can see quite clearly is that on the developed countries, year on year we see an increase on all of them. For the in transition and developing markets, we see an increase over the year in terms of donating money and volunteering time. And especially in the transitioning markets, we see an 11.5% increase year on year in terms of donating money. So clearly a positive result on that one. It's also key to look at the 5-year trend, however, which is the section below that. And what we can see from that is very promising that everything is up on the 5-year scores. So we see the highest, the 12 percentage point increase in terms of donating money over those 5-year period. And then we'll see 10% and a 5 percentage point on the other 2 measures that we monitor. So again, all very positive in terms of movements over the last 5 years. And then just the final thing to look at on this chart is that actually in terms of a country's wealth, that's no guarantee of its charitable giving, where we see only 5 of the G20, so that therefore the world's largest economies in the top 20. So we are seeing quite a mix, and I think the key takeout from this chart is giving is more than just about existing wealth. On this chart here, we're showing what the biggest climbers are year on year. So again, looking at between 2013 and 2014, And the key thing here is about disruptive events having a big impact. So Croatia's this year's biggest climber has gone up 62 points in the rankings. But what we also see is it's not just Croatia, but also Montenegro, Serbia, Bosnia, Herzegovina, also notable increases in terms of the donating money measure, which is clearly a reflection of the fundraising that went on round after the kind of natural disaster and flooding in May 2014, when the year when the interviewing took place. So clearly disruptive events having an impact. Another key point that we noticed this year was countries such as Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, which we interviewed during or just after Ramadan in 2014. And as a result of that, we're seeing year-on-year increases in all three ways of giving, but mainly to do with donating money, which is obviously something to do with the timing of the survey and the fact that during Ramadan then you are more likely to give. And then just finally, before I hand over to Masha, just a little bit in terms of what the World Giving Index does and gives us at CAF, but also kind of the sector more globally. I think one of the key things is it helps generate discussion around the subject of generosity and the measures. It's led to quite a lot of coverage this year. It's reached a point in its life cycle where it's picked up on quite a large scale globally. So this year, for example, we've ended up on the front page of the India Times, we've been in the Wall Street Journal, the Times here in the UK, and we even made it onto the Jimmy Fallon Tonight Show in the USA last year. So it's great to see that it's reaching this, and potentially billions of people can see what it's talking about. From a sector specific, hopefully it's leading to, and in fact both Masha and Paolo will talk about this, it does encourage more detailed country studies, and that's not just within CAF, that'll be at a more general level. And it is, as I said at the start, just three very simple measures to get at the World Giving Index score, but it does provide a foundation for further exploration, and we'd love people to be picking this up and using it and taking it further and exploring it more fully. So that's the overview of the World Giving Index. So I'll just hand you over now to Masha, who's going to talk about individual giving in Russia.
Hello. My name is Masha Chertok. I'm a big fan of World Giving Index. And we did exactly what Susan just mentioned. We did some follow-up research in the country and published the Russia Giving, and we are repeating it every year. And I will be referring to some of the figures which we get through this research, and which kind of reinforce the messages of the World Giving Index. First, I would like to show you the data, the historical data from the World Giving Index for Russia. And exactly as Susan said, we are in the emerging bracket. Russia is an emerging bracket, and although our general index, the overall percent of the population who is giving, is not really going up. I'm very happy to see that.
Hi, Masha.
Yes.
Masha, apologies for interrupting, but I think we're having some trouble hearing you. Can you speak any louder, please?
I speak very, very. Yeah, maybe I should
just a little closer to the microphone might help.
Yeah. Hello. How about this?
Yes, that's better.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt you.
Do I need to repeat anything? Probably not.
I think you're okay.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Jasmine. I was saying that it's very gratifying to see that the figures on giving to a charity are going up. Particularly in the last year, we made a big leap from 6% to 9%. Of those who gave to charity in the last month prior to the survey, and also given that giving is very informal in Russia and people don't trust institutions that much, it's good to see that actually less people are helping a stranger and probably switch to giving to a charity. So that's a very positive message for us. I would like to give you some background to the environment for individual giving in Russia, just to give you an idea. it's a relatively recent phenomenon, started developing in the last 10 years. Tax incentives for individual donors are also fairly new. They are similar to the US model when people can claim back the tax on up to 25% of their income if they're given that much. But I should also add that the tax is very low in Russia. The individual tax is very low. It's only 13%, so very few people would really be motivated by tax in their giving, and very few people would go and claim this tax. So we don't really have statistics on how much tax is claimed. That's why we can't use this to establish how many people give and how much. Also, as I said, the work of NGOs is not very well known and not very well understood, and people sometimes regard them as mere intermediaries between donors and the recipients. They don't really trust NGOs. That's why giving to, when the figures for giving to NGOs, to charities go up, it means that we are effective in our awareness-raising efforts. I should say that media plays a positive role, and number of publications about giving and about charities and philanthropy is growing from year to year, and their tone is improving. This is underpinned by some research which is done by the Russian Donors Forum and other wings member. I will now start referring to the data which we collect through the Russia Giving Survey, which is complementary to the World Giving Index, but it doesn't really repeat the questions of the World Giving Index. So, as I said, people prefer to give to final beneficiaries directly. And this is one of the main obstacles to giving to NGOs. When we're asking people about what's the main obstacle, they see that it's the lack of trust in NGOs and also believe that it's better to give directly to people in need. And, well, there are other obstacles, but they are obviously less important. Also, it's important to note that giving is very traditional. This is again the data from the Russia Giving Survey, showing the popular causes, and that's not important that there are popular causes, but it's very important that there are unpopular causes. And children are by far the most popular. Disaster relief and religious giving, distressed families and disability are among relatively popular, and basically all the rest is unpopular or less popular causes. So the menu, the kind of giving imagination of people is very limited, and it also limits the amounts which are given, obviously. I should also tell you a few words about how this whole environment translates into fundraising efforts of NGOs, because these are very much shaped by the culture of giving existing in Russia. So I don't think it's very different from other places, but still it's important to show that first of all, I think growth of crowdfunding, online giving websites, and the role of social media, the growing role of social media, was really crucial to boost the individual giving, if I can call our figures, our very modest figures, a boost. Also, regular donations, introduction of regular donations, monthly donations through the online giving sources is very important, because you only need to persuade someone once to start giving, and then this giving is happening and charities get regular income. And there is a lot that NGOs come up with related to making giving fun, understandable, kind of popular culture, and it involves different events, sports events, festivals, markets, fairs, involvement of celebrities, engaging with mass media, and TV in particular is very keen now on picking up different causes and organizing their own fundraising campaigns in cooperation with some of the most popular charities. And also, I think social advertising, which is really on the rise and gives charities visibility which was never ever available before, is really reinforcing this fundraising efforts. And last but not least, I think it's very important to speak about the role of employers, companies, who are really very active in introducing their employees to giving through volunteering, through workplace giving, through other forms of participation in giving. And really the same research which I already mentioned, Russia Giving, shows that going via an employer gives people a lot more confidence in their giving. So it's very important. Companies have really become this gate for giving, and the first point of experience of giving for Russian population. Yeah, that's all. I'm done. Thank you. Over to
Hello.
Paula. Yeah.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Great. Hello. Hello to everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm going to take you through a little bit about giving in Brazil. Some things are similar to Russia and some are a little bit different. But I think the problems are most of the same. So,
just 1 second, Paula. I'm going to give you the ability to switch through the slides. Give me just 1 second.
okay, now I'm the presenter. So, I thought about bringing you some numbers about Brazil that shows the disparities that we have in this country. So we are the 6th most populated country, the 7th largest economy. However, we rank number 75 in the Human Development Index, so below 50%, below the average, the median. And GDP the same, below the average, the median, which in relating to the World Giving Index is even worse, because we are ranking 105 among 145 countries. And as you're going to see in the next slide, we are actually decreasing in this ranking, which poses a lot of concern for us who work in this field. Over the last 5 years, we came from position 54 in 2010 to 105 in 2014 and 15. So it's a very steep decline. Even though the World Giving Index has increased the number of countries, which impacted us a little bit, this is not the major reason. And the major reason why we have performed so badly in the World Giving Index is because, on average, we decreased it 20% in all of the 3 questions, the 3 indicators of this index. So as you can see, on donating money, the blue line, we went from 25, 26 to 20. Volunteering time from 15 to 13. But if you think that we came from 16 to 13 from the previous years, it's a 20% decrease. And helping a stranger, which is our best score, we came down much deeper, from 49% to 41% of the population. So it is a quite dramatic decline. And we actually, if you think about the economic downturn of Brazil, that started last year. So it's not, the reason is not related to financials or the economic situation of the country. It's much more than that. It is important to mention that Brazil does not have favorable tax incentives or good laws for giving. We actually, if you donate over $12,000 US, you have to pay taxes on the donation. It's the same tax as you pay when you donate to your son. And we don't have a legislation for endowments. Moreover, as you see on the ranking, fewer people are giving money and time. We lack a giving culture in the country. We have run a research 3 years ago that demonstrated that 73% of the Brazilians do not feel encouraged to give in their environments of family, work, their communities, so where they live. So they are not encouraged by the environment where they live to give. However, if you think about all these problems, we have a huge potential, not only in terms of wealth, but in terms of number of people. We rank among the top 10 countries in a couple of rankings when you look into the 5-year perspective. So, because of this situation, Aegis, we have decided to do a deeper research with the following goals. First, identify the perception of philanthropy in our society, so how people think about that. We also want to learn why people that do not donate, what are the reasons why people do not donate, so that we can identify potential incentives for changing this pattern, for making them starting to donate and increasing donations of people who already donate. And very importantly, we also want to estimate how much people give in Brazil, because we don't have this number. There's no official number for giving in the country. So this is also something that's going to help us design a campaign, a strategy to change this situation of Brazil. And then we have run already the focus groups. So we have the interviews with people and focus groups to identify trends and the social and political perceptions, so that we can base the questionnaires that we're going to run on the quantitative phase of the research. And as you can see, the government is perceived as the main agent responsible for all social actions and social programs in the country. This is actually a heritage, a Latin America heritage. We were all colonies of European countries, and mostly Hispanic countries, and in that sense we share the same behavior in Latin American countries to feel that the government is the main responsible for our social problems. In the current situation, in Brazil, in this present moment, we're living a very deep political and economic crisis. And there is a general view of the inadequate government action with regard to social welfare. We are having lots of scandals involving corruption, and also people perceive the government as inefficient, affecting directly the sectors that are most important, like health, education, and job development. And so more than ever, we need to strengthen civil society due to this political environment, and also the decrease of funding
available for social activities. Another key part of the focus groups are identifying the perceptions of the donors and the non-donors. And the non-donors are more persistent with this concept that I already pay taxes, and it's responsible, the government is responsible for supporting the poor, the vulnerable, and taking care of all social problems. They do not recognize the role that civil society can play in nurturing a more equitable social society. On the other hand, there is hope because donors perceive that it's important to mobilize enterprises and citizens to so that we all can solve our social problems. They also are resigned to the government ineffectiveness, but they recognize that they can be part of the solution. We also decided to test words. What are the words that are important in Brazil and the concepts regarded to philanthropy? The word philanthropy is very related to wealthy families and large foundations. On the other hand, charity, which is a word very used in Europe, especially. In Brazil, this word in Portuguese implies a hierarchical relationship. It's not a peer-to-peer relation. So it has it's viewed as a depreciative relationship and not something that is equal between the donor and the beneficiary. And it relates a lot to not changing the status quo, but maintaining the status quo. Social investment, which is a word that we use a lot among philanthropists and people who work in philanthropy in Brazil, it's not a term that is understood by the public, by the general public. On the other hand, solidarity is a very important word, and that's how we translated the World Giving Index as the Solidarity Index, because it also relates to other concepts besides giving money. And the motivations to give that arose from this research. Coming from down upwards, the examples, so family values and education, and the resources to give are key, a key motivation to give. But that leads us to what we, it's not the sense of responsibility when we say responsible. It's much more a sensitivity to social issues. So I see someone on the street that needs help and I need to do something. So people feel uncomfortable about social problems, about inequality, and decide to do something. And they feel peace, so they have a clear conscience when they give. They feel good, so improves the self-esteem. And this is something very key if we intend to do a campaign or if we intend to change the scenario in Brazil. They feel protagonists. They want to make a difference. And this is what we believe that how we can change the perception of the non-donors. If they perceive that they can make a difference in that sense, change the situation in the country. It is important to mention the question of the tax benefits. Our tax, we have a system that gives tax benefits for companies, but also for companies and individuals. We have people can donate part of the tax. So this is not perceived as donation. This is perceived as changing the recipient of the donation. Instead of giving to the government, I give to an NGO. And it's not well perceived by the population, this tax system. And another thing that is not well perceived by the population is when people advertise that they donated, when people keep mentioning that they help people. That's probably comes from the Catholic mindset of Brazil. Brazil is a very Catholic country, and people believe that donors should be anonymous. And just to end the presentation, the priority of the causes, which is very interesting when we compare to Russia, so there are some interesting differences, is that childhood is the same, so in both countries. We also have health, natural disasters, but we have elderly as one of top causes, and education. In Brazil, we really have, people are very worried about this, the basic services that the government should provide, health, education. Another set of ambiguous but and controversial causes are more related to personal experiences, like drug addiction or sports and animal protection. But what was kind of sad for us, but something that we identify, is that environmental conservation, it's one of the causes with low popularity among Brazilians, except for the younger generations who think this is important. So now, thank you very much for listening, and I'm going to be here until the end of the webinar to answer questions if necessary.
Hello, this is Jasmine. So we'll now go on to the discussion and questions that you may have. If you have any questions, you can send them directly to me at the Wings office in the chat section, and I'll forward them to the presenters. So our first question is to Susan. Which countries went down on the index compared to previous years? Is there any idea why? Hello, Susan, can you hear us? Oh, yes, perfect.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, there's a number of countries went down. If anyone's got copy of a report, there's a whole section on it at the end. It kind of ranges across the board, to be honest. So just taking some of the first few ones alphabetically, places like Angola, Argentina, Azerbaijan, Benin and Bhutan, and I think what you'll take out of that is it's quite a range. There's no kind of specific reasons for specific countries. I mean, you do see things like, for example, Croatia. I wouldn't be surprised if that goes down next year, given that it went up so much year on year last year because of natural disasters. The same would apply for the countries that we talked about, such as Kyrgyzstan post-Ramadan. If the interviewing period isn't post-Ramadan again next year, then you'd expect that to go down. So there are things like kind of natural disasters or religious time of year that will have an impact and can see you go up as well as down. Yeah, just from the ones that I read out, I think you can get an idea of it's quite mixed. There's no specific pattern in terms of why countries go down.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Also, I'd like to remind everybody that you can raise your hand under the participants section and unmute yourself if you have any comments or feedback to when the questions are answered. Our next question is to Masha. Why do citizens prefer to give directly in Russia? What leads to this lack of trust? And are there programs to support strengthen NGOs?
Yeah, thanks. It's actually looks counterintuitive that people prefer to give to individuals, but yeah, that's interesting. But for them, it reads perfectly logical, because if they give to the end beneficiary directly, they think that this is
Masha,
yeah.
Hello? Hi, I do apologize to interrupt, but we can't hear you so well. If you can just speak a little louder.
Oh. Okay,
That's better.
So
Thank you.
people think that if they give to the end beneficiary, they would ensure that the money reaches the one who needs the money. And if they give to an NGO, they just give to an intermediary, and while the money may never reach the person in need, or NGO will spend a chunk of it on their own admin and office and everything. But I should say that on other research which is done into the trust to institutions, Russia is very low, comes very low on those. So in general, the population doesn't trust the government, the militia, the church, whatever. So people just believe in one-on-one relations and don't believe very much in the institutions. It's tempting to say, like Paulo says, that this is the Soviet legacy, but I'm not so sure why is that. But our role as an organization that promotes philanthropy is to actually grow trust in NGOs and increase transparency of NGOs, help them to communicate with the public better, make their message understandable and kind of spoken in a people's language rather than their own kind of encapsulated language. And there are a lot of efforts in this area, and one of the things which we do as CAF Russia, we run a program which is called Social Active Media, when we help NGOs to put their advertising in the general media, and general media supports it pro bono. They provide space and time, whatever resource they have to make NGOs more visible. And there is also some capacity building going on, helping NGOs to be more effective in communication, in using social media, and so on and so forth. And we will continue doing that in cooperation with many other leading NGOs in Russia.
Hi, Masha. Thank you for answering that. Another participant had a question if there is data of the total amount citizens give to Russian NGOs.
Actually, there is. I didn't put it in the presentation because that would kind of slightly be misleading in relation to the World Giving Index. But this research, which I reference, Russia Giving, it does give an estimate of how much is given, and we basically established the percentage of the population who's given in the last year, and also we asked how much people gave in average, and we did the simple math, and this figure is available. And if you go to CAF's website or our own website, there is some infographics available with all the data in English.
Okay, thank you for the response. Our next question is to Paula. We would like to know if could you please explore a little more why you think Brazilians are giving less? As you said, the structural issues are not new, so what has changed if it was not the economy? It would be great to hear about your initial thoughts or perceptions.
Hello? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, but it's breaking up a little bit.
Yes. I hope this is better.
So far, it's okay.
Obviously, the economy plays a big role in as you could see in Susan's presentations, one of the slides compared the index to the GDP growth. What I think that is going on in Brazil is that there is a deterioration in the economic and political scenario, and people may be starting to think more about themselves. However, we don't have enough data to have any confirmation of this perception, and that is why we decided to make this survey to analyze deeper what is the current giving behavior of the Brazilian, and so that we can infer reasons why people give more or less, and also think about strategies to improve the scenario.
Okay, we had a couple more questions for you, Paula, as well. So our next question is in two parts. One, was Brazil classified as in transition or developing? And two, is there a definition for distinguishing volunteering from helping a stranger?
I'm not sure, but I think Brazil is in developing, but Susan can certainly confirm that. And can you repeat the second question, please?
Yes, the second part of the question was, is there a definition for distinguishing volunteering from helping a stranger?
Hi, Susan. We've actually got Brazil in transitioning within that analysis on the survey, which is how we generally look at it. Volunteering and helping a stranger, it's literally we just ask about whether they've volunteered their time or helped a stranger. It's kind of as simple as that, I guess, and then just translated into the relevant languages. So, yeah, hopefully people will understand the difference.
Okay, thank you for jumping in there. Our next question to Paula is, if citizens view the government as a primary investor in the social well-being of society, how do local and international CSR and charitable giving programs fare in Brazil? Do those programs have to partner with the local governments to make monetary or other social investments in society?
Let me just reread the question.
No problem.
Not really. What happened is that local and international corporate social responsibility actions or programs in Brazil tend to do things by their own, because on one hand, the local government, the government should be responsible for the social well-being of society. However, people sense the government as inefficient. And many of the companies that have corporate social responsibility programs have difficulties in working with the government. What we believe is that to have scalable solutions, corporate social responsibility programs should work with the government as well. Otherwise, they tend to have programs that benefit only a very small group of people, and in great part, most of these programs benefit people that in a way relate to the company, or that live in the community where they have factories, or are people that have some relation with the employees or something like that. But it's very we actually have been working a lot with private social investors in Brazil, or corporate social companies that have social responsibility programs, so that they start working with the government so that they can come up with scalable solutions for the country. Brazil is a huge country, so, and we have also huge problems.
Okay, thank you for your response, Paula. And this next question is to all the presenters. We would like to know more about the relationship between giving and health of the economy, financial crisis. Do any of the panelist participants, are any of the panelist participants aware of economic studies that measure this relationship over a time series?
Hi there, it's Adam Pickering. I'm going to jump in to answer this question. You might as well hear me talk before the end of this presentation. I mean, there are attempts to try and correlate changes in the economy with levels of giving, and there are different ways of looking at it. In the World Giving Index, if you look across all countries, then the performance of the economy, the global economy, tends to link quite closely, actually, to or at least economic confidence rather than the real numbers. People's confidence in the economy tends to link quite a lot to levels of giving. However, when you start to look at individual countries, that relationship doesn't always stand. You know, there are a lot of different factors in a local country. So you might, on the one hand, have an economic recession, but on the other hand, a natural disaster, which means that people see a lot more need. So whilst it works across all countries as a general rule, it doesn't tend to be a key thing to explain it in every country, although there are always exceptions.
Okay, thank you very much, Adam, for that response. So that is all the questions I've received so far, but I'll give everybody another minute if they'd like to raise their hand if you have anything else to say or any comments. Yes, Anna? Sorry, Anna, we can't hear so well. There's a lot of background noise. If you'd like to send me the question, I'll go ahead and ask it. Anna, sorry, when you unmute, there's a lot of background noise, so we can't hear you. Okay, well, we give Anna just a moment to send through her question. Are there any final comments from the presenters?
Yeah, I mean, I guess partly to fill time, but also I think that it's a useful thing to reference. Today we published another report called Gross Domestic Philanthropy, which looks at the estimates of the real number of the overall amount that's given by individuals in 24 different countries, and compares that to GDP in those countries to see what proportion of GDP people give to charity. So that was published today, and is a really interesting companion piece, I think, to the World Giving Index, looking at kind of the proportion of wealth that's given away, as well as the kind of participation. It also compares it to other factors such as the highest level of taxation in a country, the proportion of GDP that's spent on government services, things like that, to see if there's any link between those kind of factors. So check that out.
Okay, I received one last question to all the presenters. One of the participants would like to know if any country has had problems with the banks and individual donors. In Brazil, banks have been more restrictive on working with civil society on direct withdrawal from individual donors' bank accounts. Is this also happening in other countries? I can repeat the question if necessary.
Yeah. Well, I'll give Masha and Paula time to think about if they've got anything to say, but certainly on a global scale, international banking and compliance in banking is a real issue for charities. I think the main issue is in countries where donations are going abroad, particularly to countries that have a humanitarian crisis happening on the ground. There's also been an issue with the Financial Action Task Force being kind of their rulings being interpreted by banks and by regulators in a very stringent way. It can make it very difficult for charities to either set up bank accounts, access financial services, or move money abroad. So I think there is a real global trend where it's difficult for some charities and some donors in certain circumstances to either set up bank accounts or to move money abroad.
This is Masha. Can I just say a few words for Russia? Actually, I don't think there are any particular barriers for, on the side of the banks for individual giving. On the contrary, some of the banks really try to incorporate this option of giving to a charity into the suite of their services, like, paying for utilities and all of that. So you would find an option to give to a charity among those services. Also, some of the banks, particularly the largest banks, they drop their commission on giving to validated charities. In general, I think the situation is very positive on this side.
Were there any other comments? Okay, if not, I'd just like to go ahead and thank all the attendees and the presenters for joining us today. And also remind you that the presentation has been recorded and it will be available on the WING's website, YouTube, and also we will be emailing it to all the participants. So if there are no more questions or comments, that will be the end of the webinar. Thank you for joining.